This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
You'll love her more than ever. You'll get more laughs, more fun, more thrills. Remember when the whole nation was waiting for little Ricky to be born, and suddenly the great moment arrived?
Ricky, this is it.
This is it.
Let's go.
Tell the family, tell the neighbors, spread the good word. Next week, Philip Morris again brings you I Love Lucy.
How about that, guys? We're going back into the classic sitcom well. James, Gil, and Tom, it's just like they want to cover all sorts of retro aspects. And I was just like, might as well just talk about one that has made a big impression when generations later it's still being referenced, whether it's in a commercial or in another sitcom template.
And they're getting, shown pregnancy, although they didn't call it that.
Right.
Expecting, yep. And they did it while being in two separate beds.
Yeah. And separate beds, physical comedy, all kinds of stuff. And we're talking about Lucille Ball's classic sitcom, I Love Lucy. It's a favorite. I can't think of anyone who hasn't experienced it at some point. I'm not saying just people who have just seen a clip show. Like, I think just about everybody has encountered the best of Lucille Ball over the years. And she unfortunately kind of got treated like every other sitcom star does kind of down the road, where she does movies that aren't as well received. I'm like, well, I still think she's a good actress. It's just people were just hard on you. It's like they wanted you to stay in your lane, and you're damned.
Well, I know she did.
If you don't, it's just struggling.
Yeah, I know. I know she did a long trailer. I think that's what it was called.
He's in the Marx Brothers room service.
Oh yeah.
He's in the long.
That's
what
trailer. That was before she became Lucille Ball for the
right. I do forget she changes her name midway.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
In that movie.
And it was probably your natural hair color in that too.
That was her natural hair color. Yeah.
Nice.
And what happened was that she was I think she was a contract player for a while. And then she met Desi, and they did a radio show called My Favorite Husband. And CBS was looking for something, and they said, all right, we like My Favorite Husband. Why don't we put this on as, I Love Lucy? And
nice.
We'll have it where, she's going to just get into trouble all the time, or her, and that starts the ball rolling,
Mm-hmm.
She was a great comedian. I mean, she could, but she was
looks, and she does do a bit of physical comedy too.
She did a movie with Henry Fonda.
Oh, I might have seen that.
Back in the 40s.
I might have seen that. Yours, mine, and ours.
No.
Oh, that's the 68. Shit.
68. It's a black and white movie.
The Big Street. That's the
Big
one.
Street, yeah. Where he's like the naive waiter, and she's like the girl
I've not seen
basically treats him like dirt. Wow. And it was one of those like she's all I remember is like, you know, he's just his name is like Little Pinks in the movie, right?
I will check
And
this out. This looks
yeah,
lovely.
yeah. And
Says it's a musical.
it's a comedy, it's a dramedy basically, you know.
Okay, with some music.
Um
Okay, gotcha.
but she was in the lady was Dewberry was a lady with who the hell was in that movie? Shit. Zero Mostel and Rags Ragland, and I'm trying to think who else. I keep thinking Bob Hope in that movie.
What a persona to
Was
put
she
up.
later in like a movie with I can't remember the name of it because I should, but it's where it's like two people get together and they have a huge family because of it.
Yeah, Yours, Mine, and Ours. That was the
yep.
That was the basis for the Brady Bunch.
Really?
Yeah, because it was such a big hit. And Sherwood Schwartz was like, look, we can do something like that, but we'll have to scale the kids down. Because remember, it's like, I think they got like 15 kids between them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, Sherwood Schwartz was like, okay, we're going to put this on TV, but it's going to be the Brady Bunch. And, you know, I think he got permission to do it from the company.
At least it wasn't Fred Silverman messing with the ratings.
No. But yeah,
that was later.
She did that, and then she did Bo James with Bob Hope, and
what she did something else with Bob Hope. It wasn't Fancy Pants, was it?
That's what it was. It was Fancy Pants. That's what it was. Fancy Pants. I'm sorry, it was Fancy Pants. I apologize. Yeah. But let me look at.
No, for a second I thought you were talking about one I hadn't heard of.
No. That's okay, man. It's okay. I was like thinking, I thought she said Bo James. I was like, no, it's Fancy Pants. I was like, oh, you said Fancy Pants. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. But yeah, but I Love Lucy is the show she's going to be remembered for, you know, because it kind of technically is like the first real situation comedy that doesn't go like 1 or 2 seasons. You know, it went for, God, I got to think maybe 4 or 5 seasons.
6 seasons. 6 seasons it was.
6 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good run.
And I'm trying to.
I'm
sorry. I'm trying to remember. There's at one point where Ricky and her move out to the country. Was that still part of that show, or did that become something else?
It was the Lucy Desi comedy hour.
Oh, see,
but it was still I Love Lucy. But they kind of did the whole like Too Close for Comfort, the Ted Knight Show repackaging bit. So they said, let's have them move out to Connecticut.
Stuff that's like half an hour now.
And Fred, you know, and Fred and Ethel move out with them, and they live on a house and then little Ricky's going to be there, and they'll have all these stars show up, on the show. So that's how that happened. So basically, it was just I Love Lucy stopped here, but we're still gonna make I Love Lucy, but it's gonna be, you know, it's like what they did with the Virginian and the Men from Shenandoah. It was still the Virginian, but it was just a different title altogether, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that because I remember watching like the I Love Lucy reruns and that would come on, but it seemed different. I mean, obviously because they went out to the country was part of it, but I wonder if they broke those up when they like released them in syndication.
I think they might. I don't know. I think. God, I'm trying to remember when they did. I think they only do I Love Lucy for syndication, but
I do remember the country episodes, or like you said, Connecticut.
Yeah. But I'm trying to remember. Do they go under I Love? Were the titles I Love Lucy titles?
I think they put it under I Love Lucy.
Yeah, they probably did that. They probably still did the I Love Lucy titles, and they just, you know, plopped the show in between there. You know.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I remember them moving out to the country, and I was like, why aren't they in the apartment in New York, and why isn't Ricky at the club? You know, telling the band, okay, guys, let's do it again. You know, but she had the thing was with her was that I don't think, and if anybody's watched the show, she was the focal point of that show, but Desi was like the best guy to bounce everything off, and he had some funny moments too.
He had a lot to do with behind the scenes too.
Yeah, yeah. He was the president of the production company, Desilu, before he sold it to her.
Oh,
Gotcha.
did he? She sold it to him, I thought.
No, he
No?
was the president. He was the yes, he was the president of Desilu. They had a bunch when they were doing it. So the production company was Desilu, and what they did was he was the president. She was like I think like the co-chairman or some. I don't know what it was, but when they had a whole bunch of sitcoms that were run and then canceled. And after the Lucy Desi comment, or after they got divorced, 2 years she had done a show called Wildcat on Broadway, and she basically that shut her down physically. And what happened was she came back with Henry Fonda in a TV show they did, and she said, "All right, I want to come back to TV." And Desi was like, "Okay, you want to come back, but it's got to be on. You got to do this, you know. You got to do this. You got to put like 100% into it." And she made the demands, like she wanted to have Vivian Vance on the show again.
That was the Lucy show, yeah.
That was the Lucy show, yeah. And then she did. She got Charles Lane, who you may recognize in any movie. He always played a really rough, stern guy. And he was the bank manager in the first like 2 or 3 seasons. And then he left and Gail Gordon came in. And Gail Gordon was originally supposed to play Fred Mertz, but he was doing another show at the time. So that's how they got William Frawley. And Gail Gordon came on as Mr. Mooney. So, that's how,
I didn't know that they were planning on having him be Fred Mertz.
Yeah, he was supposed to be Fred Mertz, and Vivian Vance was put on as Ethel. But the thing was that if you ever read about how that went with those two, they hated each other.
Yeah, they did.
William Frawley used to call Vivian Vance fat ass all the time. And I mean, he would drink. He was a drinker. And supposedly Desi Arnaz took him aside and said, "Look, you show up once drunk for work. If you even show up drunk, you're out of here. That's it." And he stayed sober the whole time they were doing the show. But they just didn't like each other because she put on airs, and he was an actor who'd been in the movie. I think in like
she didn't like the age difference between them either.
No. That was a big no.
Yeah, before the 80s started freeing stuff up, people were very picky about how old you were. It's so funny. All the pedophiles in Hollywood were okay with with it, obviously, but everyone else would just always give you a frown, like, "There's a 20-year age difference. That ain't cool."
Well, and you got to realize too, people were watching. Ethel looked older than Lucy, but actually, in real life, Lucy was older than Ethel.
Oh.
I think by like a couple of years or something like that.
Yeah, there wasn't a big age difference between the two of them.
You still encounter people who find something like that uncomfortable. It's like, guys, it's not a sin. Love is love. Shit.
But the thing that's great about I Love Lucy is the writing on that show.
It really was, like, because and I think that's why so many people take from it. I think it's more than just her getting herself into wacky trouble or doing outrageous cooking beds. I think it's really just, it kind of gave a voice to all the different comedic beats instead of how they stage it, how they have the studio audience, how they have the one-liners. It really was all kinds of just like other just everyday kind of life stuff thrown into the mix. And
it was also a 3-camera setup.
Yes, that is definitely the main thing they take away. And it's always a shame when I see a new sitcom and it's like, the camera's there, the cast is promising, but someone thought twice about providing a decent script. And so it's a perfect illustration of all that has to be working. If 1/3 of it's not working, it sinks it,
Well, it certainly clicked on,
Yeah. It's
the 50s. The one thing about it being in the 50s, though, it's like, everything that Lucy tried outside of being a housewife, she was never very successful at.
No, no. And you got to think too, like, it wasn't that she was successful. It's like how it ended up in the end. Like when she was trying to bake the bread in the stove, and she opens the stove, and like the 10-foot loaf of bread comes out.
Yeah, true.
That's hilarious. That's a sight gag and physical comedy,
and it's relatable.
That
We've all had a grandparent who overthinks a simple recipe. We've all had a Thanksgiving where no pressure. We got to prep.
Well, that reminds me of that episode where they switch places with their husbands. They go out and get jobs, and the husbands stay home and cook and clean and all that stuff, and the guys end up destroying the kitchen, and then you see them on an assembly line trying to wrap candies.
Yes,
they can't keep up with it.
And that's something I think she took from Charlie Chaplin,
mm-hmm.
because if you ever see Charlie Chaplin in modern times, he does something like that where they're on the assembly line and he keeps trying to use a wrench on something. Well, she went one step forward. She's not an assembly line. It's chocolate, and they're like, and the woman stops. She says, "Speed up the roll," and you just see her look at each other.
I was like,
"Fuck,"
Yeah, they were trying to hide the fact that they weren't doing it by stuffing it everywhere. On their person. This lady comes in and says, "Oh, you guys are doing great. Speed up the line."
Right.
Yeah.
And see, there's so many undertones in that alone. Just like what a perfect illustration of just an unforgiving kind of workplace. Everything's got to be perfect. And it's just it gives you that insight into the cooking and entertainment industry. It's like it's so hard to work on an assembly line.
But the way it's handled, it's so
yeah, it's not preachy or anything. It's just like, hey,
it's just it's just they keep going. It keeps like they're trying to wrap, but they can't get it. So what do? They start shoving it in their, shoving it down their dresses,
right? I give
putting
up.
it in their mouths, putting it in their hats. I mean, that's the comedy of it. It's how it's handled. It's not like, I mean, like if you watch the one where she does Vita Vegavitamin, right? And she's slowly getting sloshed and she can't pronounce it. That's her doing the old Red Skeleton Guzzler's gin routine. But she goes one step further,
Right.
Well, there's certainly an art to that. She's got to remember that line, but then she's got to, slowly mess it up as she goes along.
Yeah. And as she's doing it, she keeps like, let me tell you something about veggie, I mean, you can have somebody do that.
Lightning in a bottle.
You can have somebody do that bit and it would just fall flat.
Mm-hmm.
But you have someone like her who basically can click on and go, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna make it sound like I'm getting sloshed. I know what the writers want me to do, so I'm gonna take that.
It could only be done with those performers. And if you had to go back in time and ask them, how did that feel so right? They probably couldn't tell you. It's just, again, it's lightning in a bottle. It's just it, and that's what we kind of like about this kind of raw comedy. It keeps evolving and evolving. It's just
her delivery just really worked. It clicked.
Yeah. And she's just already a likable person, and it's cool how they create conflict not out of anyone. Nowadays, if you do a sitcom, and not to poo-poo that, but nowadays people find it easier to just say, hey, let's have kids and parents who can't stand one another, or just everyone's ruffling each other's feathers, and that's the punchline. And theirs is more just, you're late, well, what happened? Or just something just wacky that just, again, everyone's been in some kind of situation like that. And then they take it a step further saying, let's have it really hit the fan and be just wackier.
I've always said there's two models for sitcoms that things have been based on. There's I Love Lucy and there's The Honeymooners.
Honeymooners is definitely a good contrast because
but it's two models you can look at and take it from there and keep going. Like you can see, it's the plant and the roots go down, 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 down. Like, and then the honeymooners, the roots go down, 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 down more. And that
I always wondered on the honeymooners how come their apartment never had any furniture.
Oh, yeah.
They were probably Barney was probably always moving something in that he had just found or something. I don't know.
Wait, who's Barney?
Not Barney.
You mean
Art Carney?
Art Carney, yes.
Yeah.
What was his character name on that? I can't remember.
Ed Norton.
Ed Norton.
Yes.
The thing I love, like
Ed Norton, your hack. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing is about the honeymooners and I Love Lucy was they were practically almost on the same time frame, but I Love Lucy showed an apartment of like a really nice apartment. The honeymooners was bus terminals, bus driver salary, and this is all they can get. But it's like it's fun when the thing is the characters make the location good,
Yes.
So it's like
you want to actually inhabit it and live with them, eat with them, instead of just witness them. That's how real the characters feel.
And the thing I love about I Love Lucy is how Desi could do something funny, and he was always like she would do something, and he would just be like, I remember he would get angry and start complaining in Spanish about something.
Yeah.
And I would be laughing hysterically. My mother would be laughing because, and he would start, and we'd all be like, my mother would be howling. I'd be like, what's up? He says, it's his reaction to what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so great. She'll
because we all have our quirks. We all have our different things that set us off that we don't do with just anybody else.
And they got a lot of mileage out of his laugh as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. In popular culture, I saw CBS in the 2000s was doing so many adaptations of the different just real life stories, and I'd seen a few different ones about Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. I never saw the 2003 TV movie where Danny Pino from SVU and Mayans played Desi and Rachel York played Lucille Ball.
There was a more recent one with what's his name?
Oh yeah, the Ricardos. Yeah.
Yep.
I heard mixed stuff. Yeah, Being the Ricardos by Aaron Sorkin, and Nicole Kidman was Lucille, and Javier Bardem in a whitewashed version of Desi.
Oh, did you guys ever see the Mambo Kings?
Yes,
I've heard of it, but I didn't see it.
Banderas, Armin Ashanti.
Yeah. So, and when they did the Mambo Kings, they did a bit where they appear on I Love Lucy.
Oh, that's right.
So what happens is they said, well, we need somebody to play Desi Arnaz. And so why don't we get Desi Arnaz Jr. to play him? So Desi Arnaz says, yeah, they asked me to play my dad. So what happened was he gets to the costume. They found a copy of his father's wardrobe, right? Mm-hmm. He had the shirt on and everything. They cut his hair a little bit. They put it back. He stands up. He looks in the mirror and he goes, "Oh my God, it's my father." And I think Desi had passed away like 3 or 4 years before that. And he said he got shivers and if you watch that scene from the Mambo Kings, Desi Arnaz does his father to a T.
That's neat. I will rewatch it. I actually resaw it, I want to say a few years back, so that's another reason to rewatch that good movie.
There was another one. There's another one called the Desi and Lucy with Frances Fisher playing Lucy Arnaz.
And was that in the 80s or 90s?
Yeah, it was on in the 80s, and it was kind of a little bit more of like their private life, how Desi was a womanizer.
Instead of reenacting how they act on the sitcom and give their movements.
Yeah, how all this stuff happened.
Was it on CBS or?
Yeah, it was on CBS. Huh? Yeah. But I want to see the Ricardos. I want to see that movie that Aaron Sorkin
I think everyone I've heard it's decent. I think everyone was just getting a little angry about how they dramatized some aspects of it. I'm like, well, you're going to get that anyway. You cannot please everybody.
Well, the story goes
it's a biopic, so
yeah.
The problem is everyone's going to have an opinion on it. They're going to say you got that right, but I don't like how you portrayed me. And it's like, well, it's for the world to kind of judge. I mean, same thing with. I'm going a little slightly off topic, but I'm going to revert back to course. That's kind of how I was with Green Book. Everyone's going whitewashed. I'm like, well, to be fair, it's directed, written by the son of the driver. So yes, it's biased, but they got some perspective of what he is recounting from his old man. They did offer the other guy to be on it, but the media went with the whole, they denied that part side of the family. And it's like, well, they weren't interested in being involved. So yeah, no, they didn't reach out.
But
I wouldn't call it whitewashed. I would call it biased. Sure. If I'm going to say something is whitewashed, it better be, like me in blackface or me playing an Asian character. It's not.
Do you guys remember when they went to Hollywood on I Love Lucy?
I think I might have seen that one. And if I didn't see it, I inevitably definitely saw it in some TV history book. And
I know I've seen it. I just don't remember it very well.
There's a couple episodes they went out to California. I remember there's one where she's sitting with Vivian Vance in the brown derby, and she goes, "Hey, look, there's Bill Holden," and like nobody called Bill Holden. Bill Holden was like, "Hey, look, there's William Holden," and that's the one where she's talking to William Holden. And she has the cigarette. She's got the fake nose on, and the nose goes on fire.
Oh man!
She lights her nose up on fire. Yeah. It's kind of like all I remember is like I remember watching this reruns as a kid, and my mother would turn it on because she loved it. And I just remember the song. I remember, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it was just part. It's like that part of your childhood where you're like, all right, I remember I Love Lucy. I remember going, Ricky, I just, that I remember, I kind of remember little Ricky growing up and
oh yeah,
becoming a drummer.
And isn't every other famous Latino we know in Hollywood kind of when they're called Ricky inspired by?
Well, I know they had other actors playing Ricky. I think Desi. I think Desi actually played, Ricky as well.
No, he never did. It was a guy. No, he was okay. So there was a kid named Keith Thibodeau, right? And Keith Thibodeau was later on Andy Griffith. He's a drummer. I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Sweet.
And he was the kid that got to play little Ricky because I don't think she wanted her son, to be.
Well, I know he probably couldn't have been on the air for a while anyway because he had just been born.
Yeah. So they did the whole, like, he's 3, they got him, I think when he was about 3 or 4 years old, and he would come up and he'd play the drums. They gave him a little drum set and everything like that. And then when they did the move to Connecticut, but her son and her daughter, Lucille Arnaz Luckenbill, later got to be on the Lucy Show, or the one that was in color in the 60s and the 70s. And they played her kids on the show, so now they were of age; they could play them. And hey, that was good for them, seeing them grown up now, But
the first thing I remember of Desi Arnaz Jr. was Auto Man.
Yeah, this is weird. I kind of remember him being in Auto Man, but I remember him being. What was the Dino, Desi, and Billy? I had a single that they did, and my sister gave it to me, or somebody gave it to me. They're like, "Oh yeah, so Desi Arnaz was actually a drummer when he was like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old, and it was him, Billy Hinshaw, and Dean Martin Jr."
Oh, so wow!
Yeah. Billy Hinshaw would play.
How long did Dean do music?
Dean Palmer. I don't know, probably for about 3 or 4 years, and then he got into acting, and
then he said
you know,
bye. That was just fun.
that he was doing like movies and stuff, and then unfortunately he joined the Air National Guard and was killed in a plane crash. Yeah,
that's
that's the sad thing,
I think that's when Dean Martin kind of went downhill when his son died.
Jerry Lewis was in an interview. He said that's when he was like, he saw Dean just broken, and like Frank Sinatra did the stupid thing and had him and Sammy go out on the Rat Pack tour, and Dean was just like, I can't fucking do this. This is ridiculous. He walked out, and supposedly I think,
and and this before we had mental health, recovery or anything. He
was suffering from, he was suffering from the loss of his son, but
no one knew how to really deal with trauma.
Down,
They were just like, money and fame is like, well, that won't shield you from tragedy in your life.
But I do remember Desi Arnaz being in like a couple of movies before that, like just like B movies or something like that. But
no grindhouse stuff, just more like movie of the week type.
No, I'm sure I'd seen him before, but what I really remember him by his name was when he was an Auto Man.
Yeah, because he was the guy who created Auto Man. I remember
that.
Yeah. But Lucy Arnaz, I remember being in like movies when I was a kid too, when I was growing up, and she married Lawrence Luckinbill, who played Cybok in Star Trek V. And he's also good. Yeah, and he also was he played LBJ. Yeah,
sides of that story.
Yeah, so
that's kind of full circle considering Desilu had something to do with Star Trek.
Yep.
Right. I just knew we were going to get into that slowly but surely. But I do hope people, Trekkies, especially now, realize there's more to it than just that. It's like that's just kind of what you did. You had to. I mean, much like how Mary Tyler Moore had her production company, you had to start your production company once you stopped doing acting. It wasn't just I'm getting into directing or doing a different career.
Well, what happened was that you can thank Desi for bringing Lucy back on TV after I Love Lucy went off, and she did Here's Lucy, and then he left and sold his share to Lucy. So Lucy basically was running the production company, and there were 2 shows that they had that she said I have faith in. One was Star Trek, and the other was Mission Impossible.
Gotcha.
And then they did The Mothers-in-Law, which was a funny show to watch. And then I think they did some other shows, but the cash cows were, those 2, Star Trek and Mission Impossible.
And every other giant CBS Paramount TV hit.
So
nice.
But she was a great comedian. She was a great comedian, and when she did kind of straight roles, she was good. There was a movie she did a couple years before.
Wasn't she at a few of the Dean Martin roasts?
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't just imagining that. Okay.
Yeah, she was honored at one, and then they did one I think for Bob Hope, where she was at one. I think one for Milton Berle, and. Yeah.
And we've talked about him before.
The one for her, Vivian Vance showed up. Oh boy,
that got intense.
Nice. But the thing of when her and Desi were getting divorced, the last episode they ever filmed was with Edie Adams and Ernie Kovacs. And how it happened was, they were just breaking apart. So what they did was that they had 2 chairs on either side of the studio, right? So one person would go, Miss Ball, tell Mr. Arnaz that I need to go over this change in the third scene. So the person would walk over, speak to Desi. Desi would send the person back. It was like they didn't even want to be next to each other,
But got that bad.
Yeah, it was it was bad, you know.
Well, I certainly, after they got divorced, I think they became better friends that way.
Yeah, yeah, and
some people they just have to cool their jets before they can, be in the same room again.
And I think the thing with Desi was that he heaped a lot of praise on Lucy for doing I Love Lucy. He had a biography that came out called A Book. It was just called what's the name of A Book. Oh, really? What's it called?
You pulling my leg? Nope.
No, it's called A Book.
Book.
And he heaped like so much praise on Lucy for doing what she did with that show. Because it was their baby, but she took it to another level.
Yeah, she owned it as opposed to relying on who was writing.
Yeah, and unlike the stuff she did after, where she was still funny, but right. I remember the last show she ever did was Life with Lucy, which was in the 80s, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, I always heard people crap on it.
I don't really have a memory of that.
I definitely never saw it, but I always saw people saying worst rehashes ever.
She had just done the Stone Pillow, and somebody had said, "Why don't we bring her back to television one more time?" So here's Lucy in her 70s playing a grandma who's widowed, whose husband owned a store with Gail Gordon because they were brothers. So Gail Gordon's her brother-in-law. Gail Gordon had retired from acting, but was going to come back. Was coming back, right? So she lopped him out of retirement. It was just so bad. It was just like, here's Lucy. She's back on TV again. Shit,
Well,
not even close.
My last memory of her on TV was her doing I think it was a Clips episode for Three's Company.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. I'll go one better. I remember her and Bob Hope at the Oscars in April of 89, 88. When did she pass away?
Let's see.
Hold on.
I always forget.
Hold on.
Passed away.
But no, I mean, I remember her on that Clips. I think she was
77 years old at 1989. So she passed away a year before I was born.
I just remember being like hosting the Three's Company episode where she's showing clips of the show and she's like on a stage and producing them. And I'm just thinking, boy, she really must smoke a lot.
Really. And unfortunately, all our favorite voice actors, that's how you got that deep voice, was by puffing so much smoke.
Oh yeah, isn't that great? Oh, aren't they funny? I love watching Three's Company, don't you?
You ever hear? It was on the old Howard Stern show. Gilbert and Howard pretend to call up Lucille Ball being played by Billy West. He's like, yeah, is this Lucille Ball?
Yeah, why? What do you want?
It's like he's going.
What happened? Well,
Gilbert goes, "Did you give a cough job to Gary Morton?" And he's going,
"Here I am, 1 foot on a banana peel and 1 foot on oblivion. You're calling me. Why? Oh, look, a card from Tom Bosley. Isn't that nice?"
Yeah. I remember seeing her on the Oscars like 2 months. It was her and Bob Hope came out. She had this nice dress on, but she looked sick. She looked very sick. Like my mother was like, my mom had this thing where she would watch something on TV or something, and she goes, "That person's sick." To my father would be like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "She looks ill." My father's like, she's not that. She looks good. She looks good. No.
She can tell.
It's like, so when she came out, she didn't look as youthful as she did, you know.
Gotcha.
And she, you know, it just kind of aged kind of. I think she had some heart problems or something like that. But
which we didn't have a remedy for, you know.
well, you know, she was a smoker. I mean, they smoked like crazy on I Love Lucy. If anybody remembers that, I mean, they were lighting up.
Anybody in the 50s did, though.
True.
You know, I can remember watching that show, and then you realize now Philip Morris was the sponsor for that show.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
And I remember her passing away, and we were my mom was like, holy shit, you know. And I just turned to her and said, I know she was ill, you know. She had like a massive coronary, you know. I know, and I know that Desi had emphysema. Vivian Vance died of cancer, and I think Bill Frawley died of like heart failure. You know, so it was kind of. And you want to hear something really, really sick that Vivian Vance did?
We're all adults here.
Okay. When
I think I heard about this, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know about this. You know about this, Gil. They said, "How do you feel about William Frawley dying?" And she was in the middle of the restaurant. She said, "Oh, champagne for everybody." I was like, "Holy fuck!" You know.
You couldn't stand her despite being in the room all these years.
But like, Bill Frawley made one of his last appearances on Here's Lucy. There's a scene where her and Ann Southern are looking for a horse,
right?
And they're like, oh look, we can't. And the guy comes out with a broom, and it's Bill Frawley. And Bill Frawley's looking at Lucy like, you know, it's me. I know it's you. You know,
we're done.
And no. And she's like, she's kind of like, you see that look in her eyes, like, yeah, I'm happy to see you too. You know, and no, not being nasty, but being like, you know, loving. You know.
Okay.
And
I haven't seen this song.
And what happens is she's like, and Southern goes, can you tell him the Countess de Philippe, you know, the village is here, says, all right, I'll tell him, hey boss, there's a broad here to see you. I gotta go. And he walks off, and Lucy goes, you know, he looks like somebody I knew a long time ago. And that's the great thing about that one scene, you know, is that he shows up and it's like, you know, it's Fred, you know, it's Fred again. But you know, it's kind of sad because I think he died like right after that was filmed or something like that. You know,
jeez.
He dealt with an illness for a long time.
Yeah. I think that's why he left My Three Sons too. You know, he on My Three Sons he drank. If I think it was,
I don't even remember him on My Three Sons. I just remember
he was Uncle Charlie.
So so
he was Uncle Bub in the first, I think, 3 seasons of that show, and he had started to get sick, and he was Uncle Bub. So then they had who was it? The guy who played Uncle Charlie come in.
Yeah.
William Demarest came in, and he was great as Uncle Charlie. I love Uncle Charlie.
He's the one I remember, of course. Yeah.
How long did My Three Sons
run? We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you gotta sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates, Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's breakfast time. Listen at breakfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Till 72, 73, I think.
Man.
Yeah, they were on for a while. I think
That's right. We did talk about it I want to say 15 episodes ago. I forget which actor it was that crossed over with that and what we were talking about, but that's who it was, and I don't think it's syndicated much nowadays. I don't know why, since it's got to be
My Three Sons.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up on my Roku and see if it suggests.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty easy to come by. It can't be that expensive to replay. But it's just funny what they do replay versus what they totally forget about. Sorry,
I always say about that. You can tell the zeitgeist of the '60s through My Three Sons, because everybody's got very nice combed hair, and like at the end, everybody's got like long hair. They're wearing paisley clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
So hey man, hey Uncle Charlie, you want to smoke a doob?
I still remember. I still see one of those kids on TV every once in a while. He's bald now. I think I can't remember what character he played.
It's Chip.
Okay, because I've seen him in like I saw him in like an episode or two.
It's Ernie. It's Ernie.
Okay.
Yeah. Ernie and Chip are brothers in real life.
All right.
Stanley Livingston and Barry Livingston are children are brothers in real life. That's how he got on the show. He's like, look, they got rid of the elder brother, the one brother, and then they said, okay, we need another kid in there. So they said, all right, why don't we just get Ernie? Why don't we just have the kid Ernie show up, and he'll be adopted by Steve Douglas, so he'll be Ernie Douglas. So then we still have My Three Sons on there, and Don Grady was still on there till he, kind of shuffled off the air, and and then they brought in Beverly Garland and her daughter, but it was still My Three Sons, But yeah, William Frawley went back to like the days of like, I'm trying to think.
Vaudeville.
Yeah, like vaudeville. He was in vaudeville, and I think he did some Preston Sturgis movies or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He was a good actor. He was. Vivian Vance was a grande dame of the theater. Why the hell is she doing a sitcom? I don't know. But I mean, that cast was good too. You'll never have another cast like that. Because it's hard to create something like that so good. And the writing was so good back then because the comedy writers were radio writers. So you bring them to television. Now they've got something to work with. Now they got a visual medium to work with. And now they can do a lot more. Now they can put on the slapstick and the sight gags and all that stuff,
Very true.
Well, and now that you bring that up, it makes me think of like Laverne and Shirley. They had a lot of gags like you'd see from Lucy that they kind of did in Laverne and Shirley as well.
Yeah, and I think that's, I always see Laverne and Shirley as kind of like the offshoot of what I Love Lucy was, because I can remember there's one episode they're going after somebody and the guy hangs them up on a coat rack, right? So they're trying to get off the coat rack. So Cindy Williams tells Penny Marsh, okay, on the count of three, we jump. 1, 2, 3, jump. And they jump, but they're just hanging in the air. And then, I'm like, that's straight out of I Love Lucy, I mean, that's something that I think they were like, okay, we're going to do Laverne and Shirley's going to be I Love Lucy, but with two Lucys, and that's what makes it so fun to watch,
Yeah, because I mean, bringing up the sight gags and Lucy, and it just made me think of that. It's, 20 years later,
She's
you got Laverne Shirley.
she definitely would be one of the top sight gag type comedians.
Well, there's one where she gets locked in a freezer and she comes out and she's all like she's got all like frost on her and stuff. And I think at one point you see, I don't think Desi Arnaz knew what she was going to look like, but he was cracking. He started to crack up a little bit when he saw her. The makeup man didn't tell her what she was going to look like when they opened the freezer up.
Jeez.
I'm trying to remember. There was a gag that I've seen in other shows too since, but there's a gag where, and it might not be I Love Lucy, it might be the Lucy Show, where she's stuck in a shower and the water starts to rise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think that's in the Lucy. Yeah, she can't open the door and the water's starting to rise. Yeah, yeah. And then they open the door up and she comes flying out.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that one. I kind of remember that. I remember her and Vivian getting trapped in a coal chute. And Dick Martin, who was Rowan and Martin, played Lucy's boyfriend, and he's like comes and goes, well, "What are you two doing down here?" And they're like stuck in there. So they were kind of like bringing back some of the gags that they were doing, from I Love Lucy. But do you guys remember the Lucy Show and Here's Lucy?
I think if I saw them, they were repackaged as.
I remember
Lucy
the one
episodes,
with her and Vivian Vance. That was Lucy Show, right?
That was Here's Lucy.
Oh, okay.
The Lucy Show's the one with the little puppet. The little puppet and the.
I definitely didn't see any of that, but if I did, I probably saw some of the other gags that were packaged.
And the thing I always say funny about is about Here's Lucy is Vivian Vance plays her best friend Viv, and Viv's got a 10-year-old kid. And you see Vivian Vance, and you're like looking at her going, she doesn't look like she could have a 10-year-old kid by now.
Not today.
But the reason why Vivian Vance left the show is because she was arguing with the producers. She wanted like co-star billing.
Jeez.
And a little bit more over the say of the scripts. And Lucy was like, no, we can't do that. This is not the Lucy and Viv show. This is the Lucy Show. She was trying to explain. And her and Vivian Vance basically had a big argument. They kind of like didn't talk to each other up until like a couple years before she passed away. And she'd always talk about how great Vivian was and something. Well, the truth was they had that big fight and they didn't speak to each other for a while.
Is that creatively?
Yeah. Well, when you have an ego as big as Vivian Vance's, you got to understand where you're coming from with that. But the thing with Lucy was she was great. She kept in TV for 3 decades. And she was always changing with the times, and she was still a top star in television.
Right.
Because you got to think, I Love Lucy. Lucy does he come out? Then she comes back in like the early '60s with Here's Lucy, and then she does the Lucy Show, which trails into the
70s. Yes.
So she's 20 years, or almost 3 decades on television. And nobody had that power back then. And I Love Lucy like lays that groundwork, and she's still, she's still prevalent. They still show I Love Lucy like all around the world or something.
They really do. It is. I think that's just it. It's easy to translate into other cultures. It's not like she'll say something and someone else is like, "What's she talking about?" It really is easy to. And again, we mentioned the sight gags. It's pretty easy to react to. Very nice.
I think the one I always love is the one where she's stomping the grapes.
I was wondering about that. Was that the one when she was out in the country when they did that, or was that still?
No, that's when they were doing the European tour, and Ricky, Vivian and Fred go over to Europe. All right. And they go to different countries and stuff like that. So one of it is like they go to Italy and she's stomping on some grapes, and the woman is like basically just getting her covered with grapes. So Lucy goes, "Okay, you want to play rough?" And she starts stomping in the grapes, and they start throwing the grapes at each
Yep.
other, and it's hilarious to watch. To
It
this
really
day, I
is.
still think it's one of the funniest things to watch.
It almost always makes funniest TV moments, like without fail. Like it was in virtually every compilation I ever watched, on videotape or on an NBC countdown. It's one of those. It's not even right place, right time. It's just I don't know how they came out with it. If it was just that well storyboarded, or if the talent was just really ready to just translate it, and it was just cinematic. Just the camera picked it up perfectly.
Well, I think what they did was this. I think it's the writers going, Lucy stomps grapes, gets into a fight. How is she going to play this out? And they probably had to choreograph it.
That makes better
So
sense.
she knew where to go.
Because
And I
action,
think,
for those who don't know, often reads as one sentence on a page for what could easily be a 20-minute scene.
yeah. So her and her writers were probably going, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Okay, and then they
What if
do
I
it the
do
day
it
of
this
filming.
way?
They do it the day of filming, and they probably were doing like, okay, this take here, and then when we shoot it, we can edit it. Whatever's not good, we'll take out, but we'll put this in here, we'll put this here, and then it'll work out perfectly. That's
There's
the great
nothing
thing about
dangerous
that.
about it. We can do it as many times, and it just means a hot shower at the end of the day. That's all this means.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. She could have slipped in it.
yeah,
true.
I think she did. Yeah. Oh
Oh, she
God.
did?
Oh,
Was
I
there some
think she
safety
did slip.
concerns? Oh man.
I
Damn.
think she did slip.
Mm.
I
That's
gotta
sad.
look that the grape stomping. I think she did slip.
Great.
But
Well, I think
Gil, I know what you're referencing. The woman who was like doing the reporting at the vineyard, and she slips. She goes, "Ow, ow."
Okay, well, so I'm full of it. Lucille Ball is on the record, according to a Business Insider recollection. They're pulling up a 74 interview she did with the Dick Cavett show. She thought those grapes she was gonna die. So, wow.
I
I slipped, and when I slipped, I hit the other gal accidentally. She took offense, so she hauled off and let me have it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think the one that stands out the most that almost just about everybody remembers is her vitamin thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the one that my mother used to make me crack up doing that.
Oh, she used to play act it.
She used to do it. She would if I was sick, right, and I had to take medicine, she would start doing the Vita Vegemin, and I would start laughing. And this is when I was a little kid. And then she'd be like, "Okay, you ready to take it?" "Yeah, okay." And I take it, and it was like, and it was like, I had to take like liquid codeine or something like that. Thanks for making me a junkie. I had to take some cough medicine that had codeine in it. It was like just god awful. And my mother would actually take the bottle when it was empty and start doing Vita Vegemin, and I would start laughing, till tears came down my face. It's like the Jack Benny. It's like the Jack Benny bit with him and Mel Blanc. Excuse me, are you going to Tijuana? See, and you're going on the bus, right? See, and you're gonna be visiting family down there. See, okay. Well, who are you, brother? Are you visiting your sister? See. And what? And then Jack Benny goes, "I'm afraid to ask this question. What's her name? Sue. Sue. See." And what happens if you don't see her? What's the reaction? Sigh. And what does your sister do? So she sews. See.
And see, that's those are my favorite kinds of comedy. It is like the Who's on First. It just keeps going, going, going till some just random resolution.
Have you guys ever seen the Jack Benny episode of the Lucy Show?
Unfortunately, definitely haven't.
The Lucy
but
Show.
That's
no,
awesome.
I can't recall it. I might have, but I can't recall it.
There's an episode. Jack Benny's having a barbecue at his house, and everybody has to pay $1 to have a hamburger with him and stuff. So this busload of tourists comes up, And there's two of these comedy icons, right? It's Jack Benny and Lucille Ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the backyard, and the guy comes up and says, "Listen, the bus driver wants to know if he can come in and have a hamburger." Oh, sure. So the guy was like, "Come on in, Ralph." So Gleason walks in dressed as Ralph Cramden. And he does like the whole bit of like the poor soul. He takes like a hamburger bun, and they're playing the theme music to the Honeymooners, right? And he takes the bun, he puts like a hamburger on and a hot dog, takes some ketchup, puts some mustard on. Lucy Arnaz puts a little like relish on it, and then he looks at Jack Benny's thing. He takes a dollar bill, puts it on the hamburger. He goes, "How sweet it is!" And he takes a bite out. Holy shit! I gotta post that for you guys online. It was great to watch that.
I bet
that to me was like perfect. It's perfect comedy, but it's three people that
Three
are
legends,
icons.
yeah.
Icons, Jack Benny, Lucy, and Jackie Gleason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love. I love that old. I watch more and more of that old school stuff, and I'm loving it more as I go along.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that I watched, when I was a kid, because that's
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of TV channels to choose from for quite a while until cable came along. But
Yep.
Now, Gil and Cameron, if you guys ever watched The Honeymooners, was it on late when you were growing up, like late night?
Yeah, I think it was. Yep.
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I recall seeing late night elements, but I think TV Land would every once in a while play it in the afternoons.
Okay, because I watched.
But I'm
The
relying on memory
Honeymooners.
here. I could easily be misremembering, but
I
Go
watched the Honeymooners like every night at 11 o'clock on WPIX here in New Jersey.
I was going to say, I think I remember something about it after the news or something like that.
Yeah, stay tuned for the Honeymooners. And if it was baseball, they would still play it. Like if the Yankees ran a little late, they'd still play it. But I can remember. Oh yeah, this is when the Yankees sucked too, not when they were that good. And what got me was they would play the Honeymooners, then they'd play the Twilight Zone afterwards, and then they would play like some other show after that, or they play it was the Odd Couple, then they play the Honeymooners.
Okay.
That's when you knew. Yeah, so they would do the Odd Couple and they do the Honeymooners, and that's another thing too. The Odd Couple, great. Still, the seeds of what Lucy, had brought. That
really
was,
complemented one another. Both these shows.
So, but yeah, I mean, I Love Lucy is like, it's like a gold standard when it comes to, comedy.
It really is. Yeah.
You can deconstruct it, reconstruct it, and you still have the same thing over and over again. A great show, great cast, great writing.
It's just agreeable, really.
And they had tons of guest appearances too. I can remember John Wayne being in an episode.
Yep, John. Yeah, they did one with John Wayne, one with David Jansen, if I remember. That Harpo Marx. Does everybody remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He dressed as Harpo, and Harpo came out as Harpo, and they did the whole mirror scene from Duck Soup, but it was them. It was them doing, like they were pretending to be in a mirror, and Harpo Marx actually taught her how to do everything. So if you raise your right hand, I raise my right. I raise my left hand. If you raise, if you do this, you do this, and he taught her the whole scene.
And she was, if I remember right, she was dressed like him too. That's why they were.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they were
literally in sync with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was her little tribute to the Marx Brothers, who basically started off her career when she did room service in '38. So it was kind of like a
salute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why they couldn't get Chico.
I knew it was coming.
But I can remember watching that, like laughing hysterically, because I loved Harpo Marx. As
Don't we all?
The Marx Brothers.
I know. Oh man, great stuff.
I have, whenever it comes to somebody mentions the Marx Brothers, I go, And that's when we were doing the Coconuts in 1927 at the Garrick Theater in 45th Street. And I remember doing that, and they wanted to make a movie of it. Oh, but, I was at work the other day. I started doing old Groucho Marx to myself. Somebody was complaining about something. Some guy was talking about international. Now, if you go overseas, that's international because you're in between nations. Sorry, guys. I have to.
It's required. It's fine.
I have to throw out old Groucho once in a while. I was doing old Groucho for a friend of mine, and we were eating pizza, and he brought up such as. I remember working with I said he said somebody in our class, and I said I remember working with him in 1934 when we was between contracts with Paramount and MGM, and we were on the radio. Now he was a good straight man. Didn't have a great sense of humor though. I think he was born with a tree up his ass. And my friend was laughing, like pounding the table like this, going, Jesus, you're doing old Groucho for people that we don't, we went to high school with,
Killing them. Nice.
I'm killing that imitation. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then you're killing him with laughter.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Oh, and when I was a kid, I'd be remembering musicals that my grandmother would show me, and Yankee Doodle Dandy and Singing in the Rain.
Oh,
and I'd bring it up to kids at school, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Never mind.
I think we're cut from the same cloth because I can remember watching The Music Man and singing 76 trombones in the big parade, 110 cornets, 49. And I got to say this, Robert Preston to me, I don't care what anyone says, Robert Preston was one of the biggest, brassiest actors in Hollywood because I can remember him doing SOB, playing the doctor in that movie, and just stealing it from everybody stealing the movie from everybody who was on that cast.
Wait. Yeah.
We had
to start out of them.
I can remember doing things like, I had that song memorized. Singing in the Rain was probably one of the only songs I ever had memorized. And I can remember singing it at one time, even though I can't really sing, but.
You gave it your best shot.
Huh?
You gave it your best shot.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Worth the shot.
Well, I can only remember part of it anyway at this point. But
do you know Gene Kelly Gene Kelly had a fever when you did that scene.
I'd heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he had like 102-degree fever. Like he had pneumonia or something, and he was singing, he was dancing, and he was sick, and he basically just he collapsed. I think he went to bed right after they did that scene. Like they had to take him to the house or something like that. Great deal. You got 102-degree fever and you're under a rain spout. Good idea, Gene.
Yeah. They so respected science back then.
Wasn't that why Indiana Jones had to pull out a gun because he wasn't feeling
dysentery? Yeah.
Him and the cat had dysentery from eating food. And he's like, "Look, you're gonna get out your whip." She's like, let me just pull out the gun. I really don't want to feel this." Pulls out the gun and shoots the guy.
And it's just so funny because the stuntman Terry Richards, who I used to own an action figure of him. He legit looks very shocked. I'm sure they talked it over with him, but man, what a scene.
But no, I mean, yeah, I can't do impressions anymore or anything like that. I mean, I can remember being a kid. I was more adventurous as a kid. I can remember
do all the Sean Connerys and
Well, I mean, going trick or treating, and I would do like a watered down Richard Pryor, or I can remember coming up to people and trying to make them laugh doing Mork from Ork.
Oh,
Robin Williams.
Wow,
Mork.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Oh, they may be gone, but the memories are still there. Right?
Yeah, thank goodness.
And I'm being serious, man. That's when you have great memories about things,
Yeah.
When you can do that shit.
Instead of getting all fed up that you can't relive it, it's like just cherish the memory.
I've been looking at those things you've been putting together, Gil, of like character for comic book characters and stuff like that.
I've really gotten last year. I've really gotten into doing that, and yeah, I post them on DeviantArt too under Riff Traxinator.
Mm.
And let me say this right now,
if you guys are interested,
that's good shit, dude. That is good shit. I like the one you did with the Namor one.
Oh yeah, John Burns thing. Yeah,
I love looking at that. I was thinking that.
Wait, please keep sharing those.
I'm sorry. Did you do one of Dazzler?
I did just recently. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I was just trying to look through some old comic books, and I'm like, oh, maybe I could do a collage of that one.
Dazzler.
And it was Dazzler's first appearance in X-Men. I think it was issue 131. I think
I can remember Dazzler for some strange reason having her own book.
She did.
Yeah.
And it ran, I think, at least 50 issues, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think it ran 50 issues at least.
And I'm trying to wait for somebody. I'm waiting for you to do Cloak and Dagger.
Oh, that's a good one. Except I don't have any Cloak and... Well, I do have some Cloak and Dagger comics, but what I try to do is I have to have them digitally so I can actually do screen captures and cut.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have them digitally, but that might be one I look for.
Okay, I was just wondering because I'm waiting for like I'm a big fan of DC art from the '80s and the Marvel stuff from the '80s when they drew the characters the way you envisioned them,
Mm-hmm.
And I am waiting for somebody to do a whole thing about Mike Mignola.
Oh, Hellboy and that kind of stuff. He did the World of Krypton too.
He did World of Krypton
miniseries.
And he did one of my favorite miniseries of all time, Cosmic Odyssey.
Yep, the DC thing. Yep.
Oh, that was so amazing to read. Wow, I can remember reading that, going like, "Shit," Great story, great artwork,
Well, if you're interested in seeing that stuff, it looks like I post everything that I make on. There's some of them where I can only post certain things, like the Marvel in the '60s. I can only do '60s comics on that, or something like that. But like I post to a comic page, two comic pages. One's called Paper Heroes.
Nice.
And I just became an admin on it. I just forgot what it was.
What if they made some I Love Lucy comics or comic strips?
I'm sure. Well, I know they did like Jerry Lewis comics and for DC.
Oh yeah,
did
basically translate his famous gags into print.
Oh yeah, the other page was Comic Book Classic Memories. So that's another one that
I will check that out. Feel free to link it.
I remember somebody I know has actually a set of Jerry Lewis comics from the '60s. I was like, well, were they always nice for you to read? Because there's the old joke, he was always nice to. He was always nice to me. Were they always nice to read for you? I can remember. I have Bob Hope comics.
That one I don't have. I do have a Jerry Lewis comic, but I don't have a Bob Hope comic.
Oh man. Translates.
Bob Hope comics were like in the 40s or the 50s.
Yeah, well, the Jerry Lewis one I think was in the 50s too.
Let's look up.
No, probably not. Wait, I'm trying to think. So it was after him and Dean broke up. So it's probably the late 50s, early 60s. Yeah.
Okay, Adventures of Bob Hope was 1950 to 1968. Jerry Lewis comics.
Yeah, boy, I got to
I would be surprised if there wasn't a Lucy comic.
Those were in 52 to 71. Okay.
71?
Yes.
Jeez, they could have done a comic on the day the clown cried.
I doubt they did that.
Oh, yeah, that would have been...
dark.
No, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a Lucy comic out there somewhere.
Oh, I wouldn't put it past you if there was.
Let's look it up.
I
love Yep. On the Lucy Wicca. Well, how about it? From 1954 to April 1962 from Dell Comics. Ran 35 issues. How about it?
I always think Dell Comics had like an inroad to every TV star you could think of.
Well, I think
just on all that Technicolor.
Well, Star Trek was like on Gold Key, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Gold Key. Yeah, in the 70s.
Well, it was Gold Key and Whitman, right? Wasn't it Whitman that did it?
Yeah,
too?
Whitman. Well, they might have had it yet.
Yeah, but mainly Gold Key. Yeah. And for more on that, look at our mini-sode talking about the different comic book owners of Star Trek. Yeah. Man, I mean, but what a cool legacy. I mean, because what you both have illustrated right now, I think, is again sheer passion, and then balancing out the egos, and then moving into a production company. It's still a pretty illustrious career. And while Lucille Ball, I think some of her movies are pretty enjoyable, and some of them, unfortunately, just get pretty poorly rated. I think critics have been kind to her, but they always kind of wanted her to go back to sitcom territory. But I've never seen anyone be cruel to her, which I think is a cool blessing, because so many stars got treated pretty poorly.
I think the one movie she should not have been in was Mame, which was a remake of Anti-Mame.
Oh, holy crap, I forgot about that.
And when they did it on Broadway, Angela Lansbury was doing Mame, and they wanted to, I think she didn't want to do it. Something happened. So Lucille Ball kind of was like she was brought in, and all I can say to you is that she's not a singer. She's funny, but she's not a singer. You know,
right? They hired someone who can do half the word versus someone who can do all of it. Yeah.
And they shot her through a soft lens half the time, if not that. The only redeeming part of that is B. Arthur playing Vera Dennis. And
so at the very end of her career, she got that unpleasant experience, basically.
Yeah, she got that. I think she walked away from movies after doing Meme, because that movie got savaged. It was a big open. They had a big opening. I remember they had a big opening at Radio City Music Hall because she's on the Carson show when they're talking about it. And she's like, "Oh, we're open to good reviews." And I think they showed a clip, but she was not Mame. I think Angela Lansbury was better.
Yeah, Angela is very underrated as an actress.
And B. Arthur was funny in that movie. But you got shit. Who the hell was in that movie? I'm trying to think.
Bruce Davison and
Robert Preston's in that movie. Looked like Agnes Gooch.
Just look that up.
It's not Peggy Cass. Peggy Cass was in the original.
Yeah, from the 1974 version. Yeah, Peggy Cass is played by
Agnes Gooch. It's Agnes Gooch.
Okay, I see him now. Okay. Man, what a hell of a cast. Yeah, Jane Connell plays Agnes.
Okay, all right.
I don't know why when you said Mame, I was confusing it with Marnie.
Oh yeah, the Ernest Borgnine film.
Yeah.
One that won some awards.
No, Marnie. That's the
the Sean Connery film. Okay, so shoot, Ernest Borgnine. What's the one?
Marty.
Marty. Yeah, you're thinking of Marty.
Who's on first in movie references? Yeah.
Hey Marmy, what do you want to know? I think the one thing that gets me the most is like she did Fancy Pants, which was good. Yours, Mine, and Ours is a funny movie to watch, especially when they're doing the scene with like them moving into the house. And it's just, the kids are just like, okay, you go here. They give everybody like bunks and everything like that.
Wasn't there someone, like there was an actor who got more famous later who was in one of the kids?
Matheson.
Was it Tim Matheson?
Tim Matheson's in it. Morgan Brittany. Yeah, Morgan Brittany's in it.
Ben Johnson's the warrant officer. Wow.
Yeah. Ben Johnson's the warrant officer.
Tom Bosley is the family doctor.
Wow. Tom Bosley's the doctor. But the thing is that Morgan Brittany was in it. If you remember Morgan Brittany from the 80s, she was under a different name in that movie. But when you look at it, it's like, hey, there's Morgan Brittany. She's right there. But Tim Matheson played the older brother who goes off to the Army or the Navy or some shit like that. And he would become
Animal House or something, right?
famous for doing like, Animal House, yeah. Yeah. And then he would do, Animal House and, Hot Dog and all those. No, not Hot Dog.
Apparently, Brittany's now wasting her time.
He is in Hot Dog.
Apparently, Brittany's now.
Oh, yeah, I forgot, yeah.
Apparently, Brittany's now a political commentator on Fox News. Oof.
Morgan Brittany?
Yes.
Oh, Christ.
But hey, Tracy Nelson's in this. There's the Lifetime.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah. I forgot Tracy Nelson was in it.
For those who don't know, yeah. Married to William R. Moses, daughter of Gunnar
Ricky
Nelson. Yep.
No.
Oh, yeah, Ricky Nelson. Yes, the singer. Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. Oh, gee. Yeah.
We're going down a rabbit hole. Hey, and speaking of riding with death, Ben Murphy.
Oh, I forgot he's in that. Holy shit. I forgot.
God. Not crashing any cars. All good.
No. Oh, God. I remember he was in that movie. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I was thinking it's probably I'm most definitely probably wrong, but I thought Kurt Russell was in it or something like that.
I thought so too, and then I think I was thinking of the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes or one of those other movies.
Now you see him. Now you don't. The World's Strongest Man, The Barefoot Executive,
all the Disney stuff. Yeah,
Fox of the Hound. Yeah.
I always make the joke. I'm like, he's like, I'm like, Kurt Russell makes all these movies in the 1970s. Then he makes Elvis, and then he makes Escape from New York. And I'm thinking to myself in the back of my head, he's making all these great Disney movies, and then all of a sudden it's like, he's Snake Plissken, and he's Elvis. Holy shit! Did he make a great career move?
You got to play Elvis twice.
Yep.
Once in the TV.
3,000 Miles to Graceland. And...
Well, yeah, free now if we talk impersonations, but yeah, he voices Elvis in Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's not even.
I do that thing.
I'm the Elvis as an actor.
No,
he's also with Elvis, and it happened in the World's Fair. He's the kid that kicks Elvis in the shins.
There you go. He decided from that point on, I want to be like that dude the rest of my life, the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, Kurt Russell liked to do impressions of Elvis and John.
I think everyone did growing up. Yeah. Who would be the Elvis of today's world?
Well, that one guy's actually played in Elvis.
Right, he's kind of having
recently.
A cool career. He's really good on Masters of the Air. If you haven't seen it yet, that's the follow-up.
Well, I've seen him in other things, but I can't think of what they are offhand right now. I haven't actually.
And he just wrapped up a biker movie, so there you go.
Oh, that's one. It's called The Bike Riders or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
It might be a good movie, but I would have picked a different name for the movie.
Yeah, especially in today's snobby world.
Yeah.
We'll call it The Bike Riders because nobody will get offended.
Well, I was looking at the trailer thinking, really. What are they? I thought when I was looking at the trailer that they were going to do the remake of the Wild Ones or something.
Yeah, there you go, Marlon Brando.
And then they say the title Bike Rider at the end of it. I'm like, really? That's the title you decided to go with?
Pretentious much? Oh.
I thought they were going to make the Wild Rebels or the Hellcats.
Yeah. The bunch you could not control, yeah. The bikers from Mars. I don't know.
Biker mice from Mars?
Just bikers.
Well,
no need for
mice. If they had made Biker Mice from Mars around the same time as they did Fish Police and they did the animation for Fish Police, that was pretty bad.
Jeez.
Oh, God, I remember Fish Police.
Yeah, you remember the animation or the comic?
I just remember the animation just going to myself, this is terrible.
Who would you describe as like the Lucille Ball of today's world? It doesn't seem like there's many sitcom queens kind of like her.
In the 80s, I mean, a different type of humor, but I think Roseanne was kind of going that way.
I can see that kind of Southern broad kind of coming in and wanting her house to be exactly the way she wants it. It's just she was more blunt, while Lucy was, oh, that's not good.
Trying to make her husband happy.
Right, as opposed to I'm sick of everyone's shit and I'm be awful.
I'm gonna say overall talent, like if you can do different types of comedy,
Yeah.
and which she could do, it was Tracy Ullman.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tracy Ullman.
Her heyday was the 80s though too, wasn't it?
Right.
It was the
And
late 80s,
she
early
did
90s.
like 2 other shows throughout the 90s and 2000s, like
Yeah.
every 5 years. But yeah, very true.
Tracy Takes On, and yeah, I remember Tracy Takes On, and she was doing like these little skits, but it shows you how good, it shows you how versatile she was, and that's the thing with Lucy. She could be versatile with roles that she did,
Yeah.
And I've always said the one thing I've always said about Lucy is that there's a thing where like they were talking about her versatility when she passed away. They were talking about how good of a comedian she was, and the thing was is that she did have a rough childhood from what I remember reading about her. But the thing was that most comedians and most people who are actors and comedians can draw on experiences and make you laugh and think about what they're doing. So I always say this about Lucy was that she was so damn good at doing what she did. She could she could go one way or she could go another way, And that's the thing I always said about she was the versatility that she had,
Nice.
from being a comedian,
Comedy only gives you so many lanes, before you pick one.
Well, on the slapsticky side, I was giving that some thought. I think Melissa McCarthy
Yeah, I can see a bit of that kind of.
Although not recently, it's been a few years, but
Mike Molly, but that makes sense. Yeah, kind of a similar kind of starter where you're in a sitcom.
What was the show? What was the show that was on a couple years ago? I'm trying to think if it's still on or not. Where it wasn't The Middle. It was something like it was. Diedrich Bader was in it.
That was the American Housewife.
Yeah, I was just
American Housewife.
Yeah,
the woman who played American Housewife was good. I liked
there. There were a lot of tropes of that, making fun of suburbs and
yeah.
That ran from 2016 to 2021. It was American Housewife. Yeah.
Roseanne, I'm not. I mean,
I can see a little bit of it in there. It's just hers is
not for range of talent or anything.
Right. You're just talking the overall sitcom, and I'm playing a variation of myself. But yes, Lucy, like you say, is way more diverse. It's just it is kind of what you guys have both hit on is that's still kind of the template for I get my own sitcom if it's a female
Carol
persona.
Burnett.
Absolutely.
Carol Burnett.
Yes. Oh my. Yeah.
Lucy actually showed up at a few episodes.
Yes, she did.
Yeah. Carol Burnett was on her show, The Lucy Show. And then Carol and her did a special together. And then Carol Burnett would always get flowers from Lucy every year for her birthday. And the last year Lucy was alive, she'd passed away, but she'd gotten the flowers from Lucy after she passed away saying, happy birthday, Carol. Because Carol Burnett could do all that stuff, even if she was on her variety show, she could play all that stuff. She could play, this role, that role, this role, that, and just feed off what the audience wanted to see,
Right. But definitely a similar ensemble and production quality. Yeah. And I like this. And see, I like how we go in this giant twister of just making sense of all the pop culture instead of just name dropping. And we're actually trying to make sense of why it is what it is. And but I have no doubt there's going to be some talent out there. It's just it's just annoying having to wait and get that lightning in a bottle. So, I'm sure there will be someone who wants to do something like that. It's just they got to figure out how to market it, and you definitely got to have a clever writer who knows how to speak to all generations, so everybody in the room can watch it and guffaw, and someone gets something from it, as opposed to that was cute. What was the name of it again?
Miss 45. No.
Yeah. How did I just know that This is the 5th time this week Abel Ferreira has been brought into my
I'm looking at Facebook right now, and I saw Anthony Francis updated the group cover of the Theater of Blood and Horror.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And I was like, Miss 45. Holy shit.
Oh. Now I want to recast it with Lucille Ball. Perfect. Oh, the Three Stooges did drive-in movies. She could have done them too. I would have liked to see her do a Western show. That would have been awesome.
Lucy?
Yeah. Lucy, I'm out west.
Ricky, the Clanton boys are showing up.
Vivian Vance did a show called Guestward Ho. Oh. Oof.
Oh my goodness.
Oofa. Yeah.
Oofa. Yeah, I think I did hear about that. That was an
I didn't hear about that. And she died.
You not hear about it. Uh-huh. And then when they did Make Room for Granddaddy, which was the spinoff for the spinoff for Make Room for Daddy, Lucy appeared like in the first episode, I think. Because her and Danny Thomas were good friends. There's a great scene where they're talking over a glass coffee table, but I'm going to let you leave it at that.
Oh, Danny Thomas, there's a cool talent.
Well, did the Danny Thomas show come out after the Lucy show though? I think it did, didn't it?
Make Room for Daddy, yeah, that came on after I Love Lucy.
Yeah, because Thomas show was 57-64. Then they did.
Yeah. But that's one of those shows that still resonates. It's not seen that much anymore.
I don't know why.
It's on. I think it's on like Pluto, not Pluto.
It might be on one of those Sony cable channels, but
Tubi. It's on Tubi, I think.
Tubi.
I got like the pilot episode because they had some free episodes on Apple or something at one time, and so I got a free episode of that.
It was a TV starter pack. Nice.
But we'll give you the pilot episodes of Make Room for Daddy. The Mothers-in-Law.
Dick Van Dyke Show was.
Dick Van Dyke Show.
I promise we'll cover that in Mary.
Oh, Dick Van Dyke. Oh god, that's a great show to watch too.
It was. Still is.
I'd watch that on WSBK from Boston, and I would always, whenever I'd walk in the house, I'd go. Falls over the chair.
Dick Van Dyke Show. I can't think of the lady's name. The older lady that's in that. That's like part of the comedy team or his writers.
Rosemary.
Yeah.
There's a documentary about her that I've been meaning to watch on like Amazon Prime or somewhere.
Oh, sweet.
That I'll have to check out. But
she was a trooper. She was great. She was funny too. She was like she was a child star.
Mm-hmm.
Was she?
Yeah, Baby Rosemary, and but my wife watches Celebrity Bowling, so there's an episode. There's an episode where it's her and Maury Amsterdam are doing Celebrity Bowling together. They're on opposite teams, but you could tell that camaraderie is still there. The two of them. And they did an episode of The Love Boat together where it's Jerry Van Dyke, Richard Deacon, Maury Amsterdam, Rosemary, and I'm trying to think who else was on that. It was like a little mini Dick Van Dyke reunion show,
That's it. Nice.
Who were you saying? What's Dick Van Dyke's brother's name?
Jerry Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Did you say Jerry Van Dyke?
Yes.
Jerry Van Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And his son is Barry Van Dyke, who is you may recognize from Diagnosis Murder. He was also on
all these B movies for the Asylum.
Yeah. Galactica 1980. He played one of the pilots with.
I hadn't had access to Vudu for a while for some reason, but I had my Battlestar Galactica collection on that. And I haven't watched. I'm finishing up Battlestar Galactica. I haven't started Galactica 80 yet. I'm kind of dreading it.
Just have it on in the background, but don't pay it any attention.
Be prepared. Be prepared for utter disappointment.
I've seen it before. I do remember not liking it when I first saw it 40 years ago, but but I'm gearing up for it because I bought Battlestar Galactica. I said, well, I can't be a completist unless I get Galactica 80, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I am like I can't picture Kent McCord blowing away Cylons without hearing 1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12, domestic disturbance. It would be great if they had Martin Milner show up in a cameo.
That would be wild.
I can't think of the guy's name, but Becky and I were just watching an episode a couple days ago of Battlestar Galactica, and it had the guy from Emergency in it.
Yeah, Randy Mantooth.
What? Yeah.
Randy Mantooth, yeah.
Wow.
And I says, I recognize him somewhere. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I think he's in Emergency. And I found a picture. And I'm like, yep, see, I was right.
Gage
I want to give you guys a micro budget, like just film anything. I don't care. And just keep using stock explosions and copter footage from Emergency. Like that's your movie. Like that's all the stock footage you're allowed to use. You can do anything else. You can make it look like your friends are being set on fire or something, but you got to use stock footage of Emergency just because we can't afford anything else,
I just saw that Robert Fuller turned 90 this week.
Oh jeez.
Who played Dr. Kelly, Dr. Brackett. I was like, one time I went to the hospital and my mom was like, so you know who you're going to see here? Who? I hurt my hand. My mom actually slammed my hand on a car door by accident.
Oh,
and I was bleeding real bad. Yeah, I was bleeding real bad. And I still got the scar on my hand too. I'll show it to you sometime.
Oh, dear. I'm afraid now.
So what happened was that they had to hold me down to give me the tetanus shot, right? Because it was metal, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm like screaming and crying and yelling. And my mother goes, they give me the shot. I'm all calm. And my mother goes,
Lucy, I'm bleeding. Sorry.
No. I go, Mom. I'm like still a little stretched. Like, Mom, is this where Dr. Early and Dr. Brackett and Dixie are? And she goes, yeah, honey, yeah. The boy's hallucinating. And I was just really tired that whole. I remember coming home and just falling asleep, but I had my hand wrapped up.
Jeez.
And yeah, my hand. I looked like I was just wearing a mitt for like 2 or 3 days, and I had stitches put in, and then the stitches they had to take out. They just came out on their own, or they took them out. I don't remember, but my mom says my mom
needed the stitches.
She's something you put on a cut if you will hurt very deep by something you were bleeding all over the place. Now my brother Chico was bleeding all over the place one time.
All over the place.
when he took his hat off because his toupee was sewn to his head. Now, toupee was something you wore if you didn't have any hair on your head. Oh, okay. I'm gonna stop there. Went nowhere. It's just been what a night.
Yeah, it's been a fun one though.
Yeah.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up